and welcome to the Future Charged Workforce webinar. My name is Matt, and I will be the moderator for the panel today. So I guess a quick introduction to me is I serve as the program director for battery workforce here at the Volta Foundation, and I'm also the founder of VoltForce, which is a workforce advisory supporting companies across clean tech and deep tech. Some quick housekeeping before we get started with our fantastic panel. Just to let everyone know, we are recording this and are going to be posting it afterwards in case anyone would like to go back, rewatch, or catch any bits that you might miss or share with some of your colleagues who perhaps couldn't make it. And there also will be a Q&A session at the end once we've gone through all of our panelists. So we'll be checking the chat, but please just hold on to any of your questions that you have until then. That way we make sure all of our panelists get a chance to really speak and dive into each of their topics. So we have that. And then a reminder to everyone that the Volta Foundation Battery Career Fair is coming up. This is a little bit of, a teaser for it, but it's going to be on October 2nd. So make sure you mark it on your calendars, register if you haven't, and share it with your friends. As always, it should be a fantastic turnout and a great chance to connect and meet with some of our incredible member companies there. As for today's session, we'll dive right into it in the spirit of time. We will be discussing the future of the battery industry and its workforce. As we know, the industry is moving fast, and so are the expectations for its workforce. From the rise of AI and automation to evolving federal policies and global supply chain shifts, today's professionals are facing a seismic transformation. So whether you're a student, early career professional, or a seasoned expert, navigating what comes next requires clarity, adaptability, and foresight. So our goal today is to hear from some of the industry leaders on these topics, to get an understanding of workforce trends, highlighting skills for the future, and hopefully offer tangible guidance on how to navigate the future in that sense. So yeah, without further ado, I would like to introduce all of our panelists that you see here. We have Roshan Pujari, founder and CEO of Stardust Power. We have Nicolina Nani, head of product at Liminal Insights. We also have Ajay Ganasekaran, who is the Senior Program Director of Battery Workforce Development at Argonne National Lab. And last but certainly not least, we have Veronica Wright, who is the founder and CEO of Electrification Academy. So welcome, everyone. Really excited to have you all here.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I figured to kick us off, actually, before we go into one-on-ones with each of the panelists, I figured I'd kind of ask an open question to all of you. So feel free to chime in whenever. Just a quick, 5 to 10 minute section here. But from your vantage point, what is the single biggest shift that you've seen in the battery workforce over the last 5 years? And what do you see as the next major shift?
I'm happy to kick it off a little bit, and I'm sure everyone else has
go for it.
But what I've seen from my perspective is there was previously a lot of conversation about R&D, about what new processes could be implemented, where now there is critical urgency into scale and creating that infrastructure, allowing America to meet its energy needs. So I see it as a really exciting time as we've now focused on implementation and building out that infrastructure. And we're certainly happy to be a part of it at Stardust Power.
Awesome. Thanks, Roshan.
Maybe I can go next.
Oh, go ahead, Veronica.
Because I really have that on my, I share this point of view. So, when I started in the battery automotive industry, now about 10 years ago, my first role was at AVL as a battery simulation engineer. At that time, for somebody to develop battery modules and packs, we mainly saw mechanical engineers, we saw electrical engineers. I was the first physicist to join that. And since then, they brought on so many more physicists, more chemists, at some point, material scientists, data scientists. So for me, the biggest shift is really the breadth of disciplines that we see in the battery workforce, but I think that started, almost like 10 years ago. But now the next big shift right now, and it's particularly urgent in North America and Europe, is really like you said, it's about scaling battery manufacturing and recycling. We don't need, in a sense, more people, but we need to train a workforce capable of taking processes from like lab scale to pilot lines to industrial scale without compromising on safety and quality. So if I look at the battery life cycle from manufacturing through to recycling, I think we got the development side kind of covered and the integration into applications, but really the scaling for manufacturing and recycling, I see as the biggest shift.
Yeah, I will jump in after that. You'd mentioned data scientists, and we've mentioned scale. We've talked about AI. And I think from my perspective with Liminal machine learning and based inspection technology for the manufacturing industry, a huge shift toward a data era, if you will. And something similar to what semiconductor industry had gone through, really adopting and leaning in to analytics for process improvements, for yield. Batteries it's doing the same thing now. Data is not a byproduct of manufacturing, it is a strategic asset. And when it comes to the skills required, it's not about necessarily turning operators into data scientists, but getting that data literacy and that sort of systems thinking so that people can merge together the languages of process and quality and data, moving from catching defects after the fact to more statistical thinking and root cause analysis, predicting them upstream. And yeah, from an AI perspective, AI can flag the problem, and it requires, I think, the human aspect is really key for defining the boundaries of these AI solutions, retraining as changes are made, new chemistries and formats, and responding to the unexpected. So the AI is there to flag problems, but the people decide what to do with it. So in my opinion, the shift is toward data, and people, it's not just from the machines alone is where our success will come from, but using the data from those machines effectively and making sure people are getting the maximum value out of these new advanced tools with that data literacy.
Awesome. That sounds good. Well, I appreciate all of your insights there. And sorry, Audrey.
No, no worries. I think from my perspective, I'm seeing just going from EV, batteries to much more of a breadth in the value chain. In the last couple of years, we were focusing very much on battery manufacturing and get into EV battery build and cells, etc. And now it's more of critical minerals. We're also seeing a lot of energy storage standpoint. So I feel like the value chain is opening up for the career standpoint, and there's a little bit of a shift, even I would say, balancing from just EV heavy to much more of an open battery value chain. And I think that's a positive from my aspect.
Awesome. Yeah, all seems positive, and I think what I'm hearing, there's a lot of opportunity for growth, a lot of potential, and areas where people can have a serious impact across that supply chain. So, yeah, thanks everyone. That was fantastic. So we'll keep moving on then. So as for our next segment, we're going to be talking one-on-one with each of the panelists, going about 10 minutes to deep dive into some specific topics given their expertise, etc. So Roshan, would you care to start us off by discussing how we can build the next generation workforce for critical materials?
Yeah, great question. And first of all, thanks, Matt and Dana and everyone at the Volta Foundation for putting on this webinar on this important topic. Really excited to be here. For me, it's kind of a full circle moment. I've joined it was now called Battery Forum many times back in 2020, 2019, and really was a catalyst to our journey as an operating company in lithium. So really happy to be here. At Stardust Power, we've been really aggressive from early on preparing a skilled workforce for our large central refinery. And this started early in the process, in the beginning, with site selection. So we chose our site in Muskogee, Oklahoma. You know, it's only 40 minutes outside of Tulsa, a major metropolitan area. So from a work, live, play perspective, it gives workers the opportunity to be in Tulsa. And Tulsa and the surrounding region has a abundance of skilled labor in oil and gas workforce who can be cross-trained into critical minerals refinery. But maybe we can discuss that a little bit later. Muskogee itself has traditionally been a large manufacturing center in its history in Oklahoma. So it still has a lot of that accoutrement from, you know, good secondary schools and good infrastructure to allow that. And having a regional workforce leads to a lot of community buy-in. The people of Northeast Oklahoma are very proud of their communities. Facilities like ours in Muskogee give them the opportunity to receive a high-paying job without having to move to larger areas. Because of this, the locals are very invested in our project and are willing to do whatever in their power to help us. And overall, Oklahoma has been very progressive in critical minerals, carving out this critical mineral corridor with multiple companies locating there. And this ecosystem approach has created long-term alignment with both the labor and the regulatory regimes there. So, you know, really happy to see that the region is committed to this in the long term. So in preparing a lot of this next generation, we've been working with academic institutions. For example, you might have read that we are partnered with Ohio University in aiding the development of extraction and refinement technologies that can be useful for our business, but also working with the students, getting the next generation excited about critical minerals and the opportunities here in the US. Largely, previously, if students were interested in these fields, they would have to move to places like China or South America. But now these emerging new fields can be done within the United States and within, you know, their region, which is really exciting to us. So partnering with these academic institutions from an education workforce perspective is great. We've worked with others like Connors State Colleges, which has given us tremendous state support in the state on training the workforce of the future. But we also look at technical schools that can help a lot for all types of different jobs in the scheme. For example, Indian Capital Technology Center, a local technical school, really sees this as an opportunity to create new jobs for their region and has been working with us on developing curriculum and finding what skill sets are important to this next generation and working with those young peoples. And then also, we're working with local institutions on academics and job training, working with, for example, Oklahoma State University IT to develop curriculum to meet both our workforce and operational needs. And this goes all the way down to secondary schools when we're really putting in a generational mindset. We worked with schools such as Hilldale Public Schools, collaborating with them, and Heritage Hall, for example, the leading private secondary school in the state, to put in this imprint for long-term growth. And also, we've been working with the port itself, Port Muskogee, who has been incredibly helpful, especially for non-refinement needs, including logistics. Port Muskogee is already set up for a lot of substantial logistical resources, from shipping to unloading, all the way up and down the value chain. So we really see it requires a broad-based effort to really retrain and retrain the region.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's good to see that you guys are working so closely with the universities and kind of helping create, again, the courses and the curriculum about creating these new skill sets. Because obviously it's great for you guys, but it's great for the area, right? And it's great for the industry as a whole to get people who are more experienced within this space. So yeah, incredible stuff. And I think probably a common theme of stuff that we'll hear throughout the panel and some other discussions as we move forward. Before we move on, Roshan, I wanted to ask about something that we've discussed before that I find to be quite interesting, and I think people are going to be interested in hearing about, is, you know, how kind of energy security starts with workforce security, and if you could provide some insights for us there.
Yeah, energy security is largely dependent on a robust workforce. Much of that foundation is currently being built, but needs a lot more support. China, for example, has built this large labor workforce for just that purpose. For America to be energy secure, we need to have this in place as well. But we can. American workers are the best in the world and are up for the challenge. Coupled with our world-class educational infrastructure, I think America is ready to meet this challenge. And that's also true from a global economic perspective, as there continue to be changes in the energy infrastructure, different types of energy, such as storage, being added. For America to remain the world's leader in energy, remain globally competitive, we need to be able to evolve with the times. As mentioned earlier, Oklahoma is blessed with an abundance of oil and gas engineers and, all the way up and down the value chain. And this is a great reason we picked Oklahoma. And these workers can be cross-trained to fit critical material refinement, for example. Our refinery draws on sources of brine feedstock, so very similar to the oil and gas model for refinery. So it gives us a natural, I think, edge on that, because there's a lot of skill sets that can be used, especially from an upstream perspective on the extraction, drilling, and extraction. So there's a lot of similarities with oil and gas. And we've also been progressive in our approach. As also mentioned, we work with the Indian Capital Technology Center on often underrepresented groups like Native Americans, which are a true value in Oklahoma. This group is an important sector and can provide us tremendous benefits. And we've also been working with groups like the Eddie Warrior Correctional Facility to evaluate opportunities for life-transforming employment. Everyone can use a second chance, and we find this alignment with the community only reinforces our position, and we're really excited about that. Another aspect is community buy-in and engagement to focus long-term alignment. We work with economic groups like the Oklahoma Department of Commerce, the Oklahoma Business Roundtable, a collection of businesses and state leaders focused on encouraging local growth, the Muskogee Chamber of Commerce. We had a great time as a sponsor with our annual gala, and then the Muskogee 1776 Fair, where we get to have one-on-one interactions with potential workers and community leaders, and their gratitude has been tremendous, all the way from the Environmental Federation of the Oklahoma Regulatory Roundup and the Tulsa Renewable Business Alliance. So working with a broad range of groups.
That's great to hear. Yeah, it's good to see that you have a quite diverse workforce pool that you're engaging with there, and obviously doing a lot of great work. And it's interesting to hear about when you're looking at like the oil and gas industry, for example, and how a lot of those skill sets transfer. Real quick before we move on to our next panelist, I'm curious, is that something that are you finding that skill set transitions quite easily, or do you tend to partner with a university to help with the training, or is that something you just can provide in-house as maybe part of the onboarding to kind of do that training to, I guess, filter through some of the nuances?
Yeah, I think it's a mixed approach. Some jobs may be sufficient from previous experience in oil and gas, maybe closer to the beginning of the production line, while we are working with local groups to train and or retrain. And then, as our facility moves on, we'll bring partners in for on-site training as we scale up. So we'll take advantage of all of the resources available to us to really, to blend it in well.
Incredible. Awesome. Well, thank you, Roshan. Really appreciate your insights there. Don't go away. We'll come back to you later as well. And to all the people who have recently joined, reminder that this is being recorded. So if you missed anything from Roshan, we'll be able to go back and see it. But also, we will have a Q&A session at the end. There's a Q&A section on this Zoom meeting as well. So put your questions in there. We will get to them. So yeah, thanks again, Roshan.
Thanks, man.
For our next panelist, we have Nicolina. Nicolina is from Liminal Insights. She's the head of product. And yeah, really happy to have her on board here. Nicolina, obviously, you and I have spoken a number of times before. And I'm curious, given your expertise in the work that you're doing, if you could talk to us a bit about how predictive analytics and quality inspection innovations are shaping skill requirements in this industry.
Yes, thank you, Matt, and thanks, Volta Foundation. Predictive analytics, it's a really powerful thing for the industry, and it does require cross-functional systems thinking and data literacy. So we're not just looking to manually tear down cells and see what happened and have a siloed approach to resolving that problem. We're really trying to monitor the production process and understand what signals in the data are tying back to what potential failure modes could occur. It's a delicate thing, and I've mentioned semiconductors previously. I think we often draw parallels between battery industry and semiconductors. I think that it is a great way to look at a success story of adopting analytics. So with predictive inspection, machine learning and advanced inspection, we are moving from that manual process to these smart factories, and it does require the humans to understand what are the failure modes, what is the operating envelope that we should be within. And I think it's really key that we upskill the existing workforce with these new tools. The new tools, the analytics models, anything predictive, is the foundation of it is the knowledge of the existing workforce. Those veterans and experts across mechanical, electrochemical, across all of these different aspects, that's the fuel for a high functioning model. And then having people who know how to monitor these technologies and keep them and providing that value, that's a big shift that we're going to see in the workforce, or that we are seeing. So it's I think these are some of the key considerations for predictive analytics, and yeah, those are some of my initial thoughts.
That's great. So yeah, it seems like it's becoming I think you mentioned before, the first question was it's not about turning technicians into data scientists, but they still have to understand and kind of add that skill set to their repertoire in order to be as effective moving forward. So that's very good insight to hear. I'm sure some people really should. I've seen it as well, so it's good to hear. And one other topic I thought you could help us out with is with AI, big topic these days, specifically AI and automation in manufacturing and plant operations. It seems to be growing a lot. Where do you think in that scenario that human expertise is still essential in manufacturing when there's all these robots and machines that seem to be able to quote unquote do everything, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, there's the term lights out factories, which in some industries is something that can happen today and is happening today. I think we're a ways away from that in battery manufacturing, because the reality is that the automation and AI can take on all those routine tasks, and what are we expecting, and keeping the AI capable of monitoring that and keeping us within those bounds. But humans are needed to handle the exceptions, and to know what to do when something new emerges. There are big data teams, analytic teams at all of the big battery manufacturers, and they're really working to understand how can we make these models and these AI technologies as robust as possible for all of the different things that can happen, whether it's a machine that is starting to degrade, or a new operator that might have tuned something upstream that may not have been intended. Temperature changes. There's so many factors that will impact the production process, and humans are needed to make sure the models are prepared for these, and that the human teams are also prepared to handle the exception. So the more automation you have, the more the human judgment really matters. There's a book that I read years back, I think it was from 2018, Human plus Machine. There's like a spectrum of what machines are very good at and what humans are very good at, and finding that sweet spot in the middle. Let the machines handle the routine tasks and have a nice human usable experience when something starts to deviate, not just when it's already gone wrong, but when something starts to deviate. How can we present to the human operators and people monitoring that these are a few things that could be going on, and they can quickly take action in a cross-functional approach to bring the process back into control before you've actually gone out of spec and have some unexpected downtime. So it's a lockstep effort between the human experts and the AI, and it requires cross-functional systems thinking across all the aspects to really perform root cause analysis and predictive analytics.
Awesome. So good to hear that humans will not be losing our jobs to robots. We're still going to be needed in the factories, which is great. And oh, Dana, thanks for sharing the book. So yeah, that's definitely something that I think people should read for sure. And I guess when I look at new technologies, and I guess that history, you talk about the semiconductor industry as well. Obviously, sometimes new technologies come in, some stick, some don't. I think we all imagine AI probably will stick, but how do you balance adopting new technology with upskilling the existing workforce from that perspective?
Yes, they have to be in lockstep, training the workforce as these new technologies are being adopted, not after saying, all right, we have this new technology, hey, everybody figure out how to use it. That's just not how it works, especially in battery manufacturing. It's such a complex and yet delicate process that the workforce needs to be part of bringing in these new technologies. And like I'd mentioned, their expertise is what will feed into these tools. So starting with small pilots is key. That the team has one particular problem area that they think this new tool, this new optimization AI technology can address. Try to really control that experiment, prove the value, prove the ROI, get everyone on board, show how it will impact the lives and improve the lives of the operators, of those monitoring the control room, of the executives. I think that's really key to make these work, is prove the value at every level and show how it's integrating and improving the lives of the people that are working in these factory environments. And yeah, the continuous training is also key, because these are ever evolving technologies. So you want to fold in new capabilities and really take that ownership with the workforce. The existing workforce should feel empowered with these new tools, not threatened by them.
Nice. Well, yeah, very, very great insights there, and something I hope everyone can take in, because yeah, I do fear, as a recruiter, people talk about skill sets all the time, and sometimes people freak out about that stuff, but it's good to know. And okay, so then last one, are there any specific skill sets that you'd see are most in demand or emerging from data trends?
I think there's like some hybrid roles, or data literacy across the board to some degree is key. That is an in-demand skill set. Is you're not just operating a machine, you're going to be working with data that's coming off the machine and how that data interacts with data from other machines. So this hybrid of process, quality, and data, I think, are really key. That's how you're able to identify a problem, identify the root cause, and actually take the action to improve it. And I think validation skills will matter more than like building and these AI tools. Being able to validate that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and that they can handle the edge cases of your particular factory technology. That validation mindset and cross-functional collaboration are going to be really key skill sets for this new data era.
Awesome. Great to hear. Thank you so much, Nicolina. I think a lot of the stuff that you just mentioned actually will transition us perfectly into our next panelist, Ajay. Again, thank you, Nicolina. Ajay, obviously, Nicolina mentioned some stuff about, when you're adapting these new technologies, upskilling the workforce, starting with those pilot scales and everything. Given your work with Argonne, I figured it'd be great to hear your thoughts about how national labs are collaborating with universities to upskill the future workforce.
Awesome. So from a national lab perspective, what we look ourselves as is a couple of things, right? We look at ourselves as a facilitator and also early discussing of adoption of new technology. Like, how can we look at something which is 10 years ahead? How do we look at it? How do you commercialize it? And how do you then create a workforce for that to adopt it? So the best way for us to do that is forming this educational ecosystem around us. And being from Argonne, in my specific program of battery workforce development, I have a cluster of universities that I work with, and the way we try to do that is through, hey, we have this commercial industry partner, and we're looking to test out this technology. Would you be willing to either create a research program or have some sort of like a visiting professor programs and things like that? And we start kind of building these university ecosystems around us. And as we also collaborate with industries, then we say, okay, you guys are building, say, for example, a factory, right? And it's not anywhere major, it's like somewhere like a little bit remote. How do we then connect those dots of the universities that we've created and start building pipelines for these companies? So we essentially have that, and then we also work with. So, for example, a university is trying to set up a lab, which is going to be focusing on this advanced coding technology, right? And they need some support from an equipment standpoint. From a national lab having that skill set, we work with them, and we bring in students as interns, like what we call as a SULI interns, right? It's like an undergraduate internship program sponsored by DOE. So the students come on and work in the national lab facilities, and we have a graduate research internship opportunity. So the connection is not just once. We like essentially give them on as a strategic partner, build them around us, and then use them to deploy for workforce.
Gotcha. And so you mentioned with the industry stuff, is that, I guess, in a way, how you guys are helping, national labs are helping bridge the gap between, I guess, the rising gigafactory demand and local workforce readiness, I guess, specifically, or I guess kind of looping back to what Roshan was saying before, right, about taking those adjacent industries. Is that something you look into as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's a very cool perspective that we've started doing. And just giving my background, I was the director of strategy and programs for Panasonic Energy of North America. So I was at the Tesla Gigafactory in Reno, Nevada, and also scaled the Kansas Gigafactory, right? So when you go through that, you do all the site selection and things like that. It's not easy, right? So you're looking to build a factory that's going to have 4,000 to 5,000 people coming and working if it's like a 38, 40 gigawatt hour plant. And you're not going to get a major metro area, right? So you're going to be looking at a suburban area where the total population is 6,000. And how are you going to staff 4,000 to 5,000 people, right? They used to joke in Nevada is like you bring in blackjack dealers to become, electrode operators. How does that transition happen? So when you do that, you are also, as a company, focused on meeting your SOP, start of production, right? You're focused on hiring your leaders. You're focused on setting up your processes, your equipments. So what happens is workforce sort of not gets pushed out, but does not fall on the top priority list sometimes, right? So, and this is what I noticed, and companies like Samsung and Panasonic are very ahead in terms of like how do we already, when we go into this area, work with the local communities, etc. But also it's sometimes from a headcount standpoint, you're not able to immediately staff up that area. So what we do as national labs is we go in and support, and we become this sort of a hub facilitators, and we work with the educational ecosystem that we spoke about. We've already built that. Say, for example, you're building a factory in North Carolina, who do we know from our North Carolina cluster and the South Carolina cluster? What are the core skills that are needed, right? So you look at going into a gigafactory, you need, material handlers, machine operators, maintenance techs, and you look at the core skills of it, understand which university, which vocational school offers that, what is the workforce elasticity of that, because sometimes you don't need to have like somebody trained in battery technology to do what the role of a machine tech. You can take somebody who's done a high volume manufacturing, put them in, and they're able to easily catch up. And then we also work with a lot of curriculum creators and different universities. And we also work very closely with like grassroots program like Clean City Coalitions. What does the community need in terms of what are the barriers of entry, like to come work in this factory? So we are able to give that sort of analytics as well. So it almost becomes like, hey, company, you go focus on building the site, and we will help you build the workforce pipeline, not just the current, but also emerging in future, which goes all the way into STEM K through 12.
Awesome. And you say that when you're looking at the talent that can successfully do the job at a lot of these facilities, they don't need to always be a battery expert. That's something that they could learn on the job, as long as
Right.
and I assume that's because there's a lot of like the equipment is very similar across a lot of these different products, right? And you
Right.
can just adapt
Yeah.
that. That's good to know. I think that's something a lot of companies probably need to will be interested to hear about as well. So, and I guess my last question for you would be, because you talked about again a lot of the programs and universities that you guys partner with, the Clean City Coalition, all that. But what role do competitions like the Battery Workforce Challenge actually play in producing industry ready graduates compared to internships or apprenticeships?
Awesome. And this is close to my heart, right? This is my program, one of my programs that I run. And for people on the, panel, on the call, Battery Workforce Challenge is a 3-year collegiate competition that's sponsored by Department of Energy, and Stellantis as our headline sponsor. And the goal of this is to design, build, and integrate an innovative battery pack into a production Stellantis Ram ProMaster vehicle, right? So we have 12 teams, which comprises of one university and one vocational school across North America. And the students are all participating to build a battery pack, right? So that's the background of it. So how does it help, and how does it create an edge more than an internship opportunity? The way we look at it is we simulate an industry sort of processes throughout the competition. They go through phase gates. They understand what project management is. They understand what a technical gate review comprises of. How do you work with a supplier? How do you work with a leader? How do you work with an industry sponsor? So we take all of these core skill set and we package that within those 3 years. It's almost going through a rotation program, a leadership rotation program, right? So you start off at year one and you understand, how do you ideate a design? How do you then validate your design? How do you build your design? What are the software aspects of it? So, and we get real leadership role to the students, right? There's an engineering manager, there's a project manager, there's a technical lead. So they operate like a startup essentially, right? And the way they engage with a leadership role, like we have Stellantis's Senior Vice President of Propulsion, Mickey Bly, interacting with the students. And for an undergrad student or a grad student to get that level of exposure early on in their career gives them the courage and the boldness, because that's where I see sometimes people, when they look for a job, they look for a job with a shotgun approach, but this helps them to narrow it down, get more aware of where do they want to be part of that value chain. And having that awareness early in the career is going to be a huge, huge support for any students coming out, because now they're like, instead of, I want to be in a battery technology world, they fully understand, I want to be working on thermal propagation. I want to be working on cooling. I want to be working on cell manufacturing. So we tend to give that level of understanding, and also working with the sponsors. Now they have like what, 15, 16 companies which are major in the automotive battery EV sector, working with them closely. So they're able to showcase their skills and they're able to get hired on. And fun fact, I myself was one of the EcoCar 1 and 2 participant back when I was in my grad school. So it's like a full circle moment for me to come run this program now. So that's what Battery Workforce Challenge do, and we set the students apart coming out of this competition as almost like a industry ready professional.
That's amazing, and we love full circle moments here.
Yeah.
That's always great, and yeah, I mean, it's an incredible program. I've seen a lot of success for it, and I think having not taking that shotgun approach and giving those participants that opportunity to be a little more focused with their application process is very beneficial. I can tell you that it's a better approach and it's good for their
Absolutely.
careers, but also gives them a sense of purpose. So awesome, Ajay, really appreciate it, man. Very extremely valuable insights. Everyone, if you don't know about the Battery Workforce Challenge, definitely check it out. Go into, I think Dana sent a link into the chat because there's, I believe Ajay Kirkenroy just opened up a notice of participation, notice of program interest.
Yeah, so yeah, I can do that. So we're actually kickstarting the next series for the Advanced Vehicle Technology competition, and we've already issued the notice of participating intent. So check it out. I think the link, and I can also post it. It's going to be big. It's going to be multiple OEMs. It's going to be much more interesting than the current. Ours is awesome, but it's going to be even bigger. So really excited for that.
Nice. Well, bigger is good. Thank you so much, Ajay. Really appreciate your insights there. So everyone, rounding out our panelists in the one-on-one discussions, we have Veronica Wright, who's the founder of Electrification Academy. And Veronica, given the work that you're doing, I think it's best to have you round everything out because I think you can tie a lot of these topics together and about how you're helping kind of create this future-ready workforce. So yeah, I'll leave it with you. I think we discussed it offline a bit about what you want to go into, and I'll let you kind of run through it.
Thank you, Matt. Yeah, I think that's great. I like to keep a holistic view on things and try to understand what really makes sense. So yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you for organizing this. Everything that's done at Volta, it's really just so important to push this industry forward. So I would like to start by telling you a little bit about what I've experienced in my business over the last years. So I'm originally from Austria. I have a very technical background, a PhD in technical physics. I've worked in the battery industry for many years, and then 5 years ago, I moved to the US to start my own consulting business. Now, part of what I do and what I've been asked to do is to design training programs because, I have a passion for education. I went out there on YouTube, on LinkedIn, kind of talked about battery technology. So several times there were like organizations, even universities also, but also corporates kind of reaching out to design training programs around batteries. And, we would come up with some topics, but ultimately, I kept coming back to kind of the same realization. I found the challenge is that we don't have a shared language or a shared framework yet. So for me, anything that we do in education for the battery industry and beyond, it has to tie back or actually originate from what happens in the industry. So real industry workflows and how the market actually operates. And so, just thinking back to my PhD, I did fundamental research and I believe it's necessary. That's all right. But we have to make sure that it's connected to what the industry needs. I can theoretically research a new promising cell chemistry, but if we don't have the raw materials or the manufacturing processes to ever do that on an industrial scale, then it might never become a real priority. So ultimately, what I always found missing is this holistic look at what the industry is doing in different parts of the world, because it's very regional, as we know. And then also, what is the strategy? And how does this then translate into the actual application and industry workflows and the actual education side of things? And so I know this is kind of a big thing and a big topic, but I'm trying to tackle that together with a lot of other people. But so that's kind of the reason I decided to start Electrification Academy. And this is quite a young project. So Electrification Academy, I call it a B2B knowledge platform. So in a sense, a space that brings together education and a B2B knowledge hub. and it's very new. It just went live in April this year. It's at the moment very focused on the battery industry, but we're expanding into e-motor, into renewable energy and other sectors. It's free for everybody to access at electrification-academy.com. And what it does is we're describing industry workflows, like, for example, battery recycling, battery cell manufacturing, and really the individual process steps that are involved. And then the most important thing for us is also to tie these processes together with all the offerings, being equipment, being solutions, being machines, being software, being services that are out there right now in the industry, and do that mapping. So everybody that goes there can understand what's actually happening and who already offers certain things and where are the gaps. So in a sense, what we're trying to do here is taking this industry, in a sense, from theory to practice. So it's not about what is a lithium-ion battery, what chemistries are out there, and all that, but it's more about how do we manufacture? How do we recycle? How do we even like safely store, transport, dismantle batteries? And how do we kind of scale, right? So I think I saw a comment before, or a question or something like this, that there was a gap between college education and industry expectation for a battery engineer, where somebody with an electrical engineering degree, they have no idea what a CCCV charge is or curve is. So that's exactly kind of the thing, right? So the students that are coming out from college, they are lacking kind of this application know-how. And so that's what we're trying to do. And I also want to try to tie that into what's happening with AI, because it matters, right? So everybody today has access to pretty much unlimited information. You go to ChatGPT, Perplexity, whatever, and it tells you everything about chemistries, about the type of batteries, about more like fundamentals, I would say. But what you can't find with AI today is bringing it together, best practices from an application perspective, lessons learned, any type of real world challenges. So if you ask ChatGPT, how do I make a battery? What's the best strategy? How do I recycle a battery? What's the best process? It won't be able to answer that because nobody has put together this information just yet. And so that's kind of what we're trying to do. And we're really at the beginning. And I encourage everybody to check it out and help create and curate this content. A big part of this is that it's created by real people and by professionals that have experience, that have had those lessons learned, right? So if you go to our website, you'll find a couple of experts that are working with us already. They're independent experts, so they really have a kind of neutral perspective and a neutral standing. And they also have experience. They have worked in a gigafactory. They have recycled batteries in their life for at least 5 years. So we're looking for those professionals who kind of help curate content, break down all these industry workflows into the process steps, help bring in like the challenges, the innovations, the trends, what's missing, and then also tie that in, like I said, with kind of solution and equipment providers. And maybe just to kind of close that up, we all know, working in this industry, that there has been so much hype in this industry. It's kind of not there anymore. And in Europe and in North America, we have seen companies that struggled, they have failed. And now we have to define what's next, right? And in a sense, this failing is something positive as well, or at least I want to make sure we actually draw some lessons from there. So the big thing is here really share those lessons learned, work with the people that were involved with, a Northvolt and other companies, like what went wrong, and then share those lessons and also clarify for anybody else that is kind of stepping into these roles now, clarify the expectations, like at leadership levels. It's not just the technical side and the process side, but then at the leadership level, there is no clear sense of, what does scaling involve? It's really not just the technology. It's so much more than that. It's managing projects, time, people, cost. And at this kind of manager level, it's about making sure that these people and teams have this kind of standard information and training. So that's something that we try to do here with Electrification Academy. And like I said, one of my latest projects. And I'm very happy to be able to share this today with everybody.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Veronica. That was some great insights there. Everyone, if you haven't, Dana threw it in the chat. Make sure to go and check out Electrification Academy and see what's going on there. So we're coming up, everybody, on the last kind of 10 minutes here. And I want to make sure we can get through some Q&A. So if you haven't already, guys, throw something in the Q&A kind of part of the chat, and we'll try to answer as many as we can. To start us off, the one that I picked out was from Srishti Mittal, and they were asking, what advice do you have for early career professionals / fresh graduates in the field when we're looking for a job, obviously with minimal experience? And this is for the whole panel, so feel free to chime up whenever you guys want.
I would say, just if you want be in the battery world, go in, get your foot in through any role that you can find. No role is a bad role for an early career, because there are many paths that lead to where you want to be in your career. So if you want to be a program manager, you don't have to go in as a program management track. You can go into a quality engineer or like a process engineer, learn the processes, and then you can shift to program management. And in that case, you would actually even be more stronger, because you now can understand everything which goes between the value chain of like end-to-end process. So I think that's one of the biggest things I would say is don't wait for the right perfect opportunity to come through. Get your foot in, get exposed, and then you can easily, and you might even like change what you want to be because of the exposures that you get. So that's the best advice I could give.
Awesome. That is great. And yeah, for those people looking for careers, again, Battery Career Fair coming up October 2nd. Make sure you check that out. Ajay, while I have you, one of the other questions that came in from Anna was, how can you scale the Battery Workforce Challenge, in terms of, the number of students that you can actually reach? And I guess how many, and maybe for some context, how many students are you guys reaching right now?
So we have 800 plus right now from across 24 schools, which includes one university and one vocational every year. And it's a rolling population, right? Students graduate, new students come in, and then the teams recruit more students, etc. The way we scale up, we look at it as like the competition is just one avenue, right? The AVTC program, which is the Advanced Vehicle Technology, is sponsored by DOE, and there are two AVTC programs currently happening. One is Battery Workforce, and the other one is the EcoCar Challenge, right? So equally big, EcoCar has a little bit more history to it, so there's a little bit more students involved with the universities. But then there's other avenues, right? I've talked about the Workforce Hub that we work with the OEMs, and we essentially do the same battery workforce development in terms of creating curriculum, training people, and getting them like connected with the off-ramp with the job. So we call it the career connected learning aspect of it. And then we also have an LMS system that we're working on right now, and we're starting to, pilot run that within our competition. But our idea is for the future is to start engaging with the public to get the curriculum, because there's a lot of curriculum right now, but how do you now take it, get the right training, and then able to get a career based out of it? So that's another way we're looking at. But there are a lot of other competitions that a lot of universities have as well, right? So it depends on like, Auto Drive is another one, and there's the Baja Challenge by SAE. So different schools have different competitions that they get involved through. So we as AVTC folks, when we create a new program, we send out an OP and we send out an RFP, so universities apply for it. So that's how we do it from a competition perspective.
Awesome. Thanks. One question that came through that I think is really great, and you all could probably provide some insight on because you've touched upon this, but do you believe that recruiting for the battery industry needs to be less rigid in its job requirements and more open to transferable skills?
Was it a question for me, Matt?
Anyone. Yeah, you. Yeah, anyone. This is, yeah, sorry,
Um,
this is for all the panelists. It's just
okay.
a general question.
Not so I would say it's not rigid, I would say, but it does definitely have some structural baseline for what you need as a skill set. I would say they do look for, if you're going into the design aspect, you need to have the cell design educational background, because battery design is not, you can't just pick it up, right? So you need to understand the chemistry of it. So you need to have a little bit of that. But there are companies now which are trying to keep a little bit more flexibility in, like, just having the core skills that is needed for the job. And then they almost, encourage people from different walks of industry so that there's a little bit more synergy to it, right? So if you're going into the process engineering standpoint, it doesn't have to, you have worked in a gigafactory before. Have you worked in a high volume manufacturing, like a bottling industry, or like a canning or something like that, or even you see a lot of oil and gas folks coming into battery world, right? Because of the chemical, the large volume, etc. So companies are trying to be a little bit more open about it, and I see that getting a little bit relaxed in the coming years, I would say. Just because, number one, there's a workforce scarcity sometimes for specific roles, and I think the companies are evolving.
Maybe I can just add to this. I mean, being in this industry now for 10 years, especially in North America and Europe, there are just not very many people who really have that experience that all these companies are looking for. So in any case, when you apply as a student, there will be a lot of other people like you and not enough people who really have experience. Um, Maybe also one story to share. I recently just talked to Bob Gallion, who is the former CTO of CATL. So he was involved in building 26 gigafactories, right? That started decades ago. But he told me that, the key to make this happen was a 9-month long training every day in the factory for everybody coming in, be it the graduates, be it any type of scientists, anybody there, workers whatsoever. 9 months long training each and every day to make this happen. So it is really just a key, right? And I think I saw a comment here about, the single most needed kind of
The single most
skill,
difficult skill in battery
or that single
manufacturing.
most difficult skill in battery. Like, if there was a single one, it would be easy, right? I mean, I'm coming back to the scaling discipline and understanding the process and learning about it in a way that we really have lowest possible failure rates, lowest to zero. So this is also what this training at CATL was essentially for, right? Optimize, like set up a process, optimize it, and make it so these batteries will work. And if you look at factories in North America and Europe, they start out with like over 30% failure rates. So, and to bring that down, it's like so much effort. So, and that I think comes back to knowledge and experience and lessons learned. Sorry, it's 11.
No, it's all good. Yeah, we're at the end here. So first I want to thank everyone for attending. I want to thank the panelists. Just I guess as the last, I guess to close everything out, I want to give each of the panelists a chance to just give a closing remark, and we'll let everyone go on their way. So yeah, do you want to, Roshan? Do you want to start?
Yeah, happy to. And once again, thanks for this conversation. It was really fascinating. I was happy to see the optimism in Veronica's remarks. It's been volatile times, interesting times we live in, but really pushing forward in that. Same with Nicolina's about that the AI can't push us out. We still need, skilled workers and data engineers and such. And Ajay, I wish we met a couple of years ago, but I look forward to staying in touch
Yes,
with
sir.
for their great commentary today. Really enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll just jump in there. I want to thank everyone for your time and for my closing remark, it is exactly that. It's data is a core asset, a strategic asset of battery manufacturing. We are going in the direction of analytics. We need to tap into the expertise of the existing workforce and upskill those from other industries, oil and gas, et cetera, with the tools that they need, with the knowledge that they need, with courses from these programs, or with the programs that you all are running, as well as the AI tools, and then we can really make this a successful transition.
All right, so thanks everybody for this panel, and I really want to hone in the statement that we're going through a transition, right? It's not all dark. Every industry goes through a cycle, and we're facing, I would say, our first cycle of like adjusting and starting to climb. Electrification is definitely the future, and for people who are in the PhD programs and engineering programs or technician, keep at it. I don't think this is going to go away. It's just taking its time. So there's a lot of opportunities coming out from overall value chain, and yeah, just keep at it. And I think there's 75 companies right now that is going forward with the expansion right now. And I can share the link of this file that I have of all the projects that's happening, and I can share it with Dana. And it's there's a lot of hope there. So definitely, and that was including Stardust. So really, looking forward to see how this industry pans out. And congratulations and good luck to everybody.
Yeah, and also from my side, thank you to everybody. I'm sure we'll catch up individually, and yeah, hope to find ways to collaborate. Yeah, let's keep pushing, let's keep building, and really try to remove the silos, try that kind of hold back the lessons learned out of IP fear, out of other fears. So yeah, let's work together.
Awesome. Thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you everyone for attending. Reminder, Battery Career Fair, October 2nd. Volta Foundation is also going to be at the Battery Show, so make sure to stop by. We're hosting a social. But thank you everyone. Really appreciate your time, and yeah, looking forward to seeing how the future shapes out.